All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the WDW Fan Zone Show. This is, I don't know what episode it is. I think 497, part one of John's life story. No, it's John's Adventures Across the Pond, or Adventures by Disney Across the Pond, however you want to look at it. But we have news for you too. And before we get into the subject of the show, we're going to have Jess take it away and give us the news. But I have to introduce everybody before we even do that because I'm so disorganized and I can't remember what to do first or last time. So I'm also tired. Not as tired as Kurt, but I'm tired. We've got John Maloney, Kurt, Darlene Nagy, Jess, and myself, Stuart. And this, once again, is the WDW Fan Zone Show if you're still with us. Please hang around. It's going to be a great show, and we've got some great news. So Jess, take it away.
Hello, everybody. All right, I'm here with the news. So, Communicore Hall in Epcot has opened a day early. I won't spoil it for you, but my favorite thing was being able to see the kitchen. It looks so cool. Very excited. Celebration Encanto will debut tomorrow, June 10th. Joy from Inside Out will be at the Hollywood Studios starting tomorrow, June 10th, in Pixar Plaza. This is ahead of the June 14th Inside Out movie release. Lion King's 30th anniversary celebration will be held at the Animal Kingdom starting tomorrow, June 10th. This will include a meet and greet with Timon and Rafiki at the Conservation Station, an animation experience learning to draw characters from the movie, photo opportunities in Africa, and special food and merchandise. This anniversary celebration will run until September 6th. Don't forget to check park hours before planning your trip and then check them again once you arrive to see if they've changed because they do. The Walt Disney World area is expecting some cooler temps this week by about 10 degrees. Expect mid to low 80s and chances of thunderstorms every day. And be aware of the weather before planning to get on the monorail or the Skyliner as they will close for bad weather. And that's all I have for today. Not a lot of news, but good news.
Thank you so much, Jess. As always, great news reporting. Have a great rest of the week.
See you real soon.
Bye, Jess. All right.
I had to turn this off. Here we
go. So, to say the least, it has been hot as blazes here in Florida.
Absolutely. We wanted to go to the parks this weekend and we just opted not to. It was 105 index. Yeah. We just didn't want to do it.
It was a heat advisory today.
I can confirm that the Gulf is literally bathwater right now, about 88 degrees.
Yeah.
This is the time of year where you say to yourself, do I want to go to the parks during the day or would I prefer to go at night? I choose the night.
When it cools down to 88 degrees.
Yeah, it's almost bearable.
Right now the temperature is registering at 87.
Where I am, it says 94, but I don't think that's accurate. Let me take a look at what my phone says here because that's more accurate. 88.
Parks are so hot.
Yeah, 88's more like it.
I don't know about you, John, but right now I've got 72.
It's probably close to that here.
Yeah. So if you go into the parks, I feel for you. Just
hydrate. Hydrate.
Yeah, like there's a commercial line here where the guy goes sanitize. No, hydrate.
And a lot of sunscreen because you will fry.
Yeah, absolutely. Get indoors as much as you can.
Yeah.
Screw those outdoor roller coasters. Don't go on them in the heat. Wait till it cools down.
Those cooling cloths, and Stuart, I still use our Fan Zone ones. They definitely do help at this time of year.
Now, and I recommend the neck fans.
Oh,
I've got a question for you, Kurt, with the neck fans.
Yes.
Does your neck get hot wearing it out in the heat? Because it's cooling up. It doesn't.
Nope.
Okay.
I use one when I'm cutting the lawn.
So, no, it does not. And when you get into the air conditioning, it cools it off twice as fast. So it helps you cool off quicker once you get inside of a
That's good to know.
Mickey's Thriller Magic. It really does help.
I've been thinking about picking up one or two of those.
Mm-hmm. That would
I know
be.
they have ones that blow right at you, like in. I don't want anything that blows
Yeah,
in my face.
these
I've
go
got
right
the
up and
other
around your
one.
neck. I don't have it with me, or I pull it
Yeah,
out.
I know the one you're talking about, Kurt. It's got the vents in the back.
Yeah, it goes right up on the top of your neck, and it brings the air in on the sides.
Mhm.
That looks like where it's fanning it. It actually is sucking the air in there, and it blows that out on your neck. If you have hair on the back of your head, it helps cool it off a lot. My wife's got one; she really likes it.
Okay, very good. Now we John is getting nervous waiting there because he's going to talk about his Disney
The
Adventure
star
by
of the
Disney.
show.
Adventures by Disney, I think, is a great thing to try, and we'll have plenty of questions for you, John. So, for those of you who can afford a second, third, fourth mortgage on your home to go on an adventure,
The-
no, I'm kidding.
It's a good use
They're
of
not cheap.
the Disney Visa card, so
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
you can
Oh, I'm
delay your
sure.
payments or spread them out over 6 months.
Yeah. Now, I do have a question for you before we get into everything. You've been on vacations without Adventures by Disney. You've been on vacations with Adventures by Disney. How do what is the difference going on an adventure by Disney than just doing a regular vacation? I mean, obviously you have a tour guide, but the hotel's better, or the resorts where you stay, the food.
I think it's all of the above and more.
Mhm.
What Adventures by Disney, the way I kind of categorize an Adventures by Disney trip is it's really a concierge tour for your entire trip. And the way that they start out is your your airline is not part of your Adventures by Disney package, so you have to get the airline yourself. But as soon as you get out of security with your baggage, there's somebody waiting there with your name, and they pick you up and they take you to your hotel. So once you get there, you really don't have to plan or worry anymore. It's all
So,
in the hands of your Adventures by Disney team.
so would it be fair to say that you're a travel snob?
Well, when you are on an Adventures by Disney trip, you kind of feel like one, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It like I said, it's concierge treatment for the
Mhm.
entire trip.
Yeah,
And
it's like going on a Disney cruise. When you're on a Disney cruise, you feel like royalty. You really do. Um, that's not the only cruise line where you're treated like royal or feel like you're treated like royalty. There are others, but Disney really does that. But you're paying for it too.
well, right. So you definitely have to pay for it, but I would say you get what you do pay for
Yeah, absolutely.
in the places where you stay, in the food, in the tours, in the extras, and we'll see some of those as we talk here, but in the extras, within the experiences that you get, you have two Adventures by Disney guides that are
Oh, one's not good enough.
no, one's not good. Well, the group is up to 40 people.
Wow.
So there's up to 40 people. We had 36 on this trip. And so you have two adventure guides that work for Disney that are with you throughout the trip. Then, as you are visiting different places, there are local guides, and they're top-notch local guides that pair up then. And they're guides that the Adventures by Disney guides know because they worked with them before.
Mhm.
And when you're in a city, those guides will be with you to take you through all of the different places you're going to tour. They're the ones that are giving the narration. You have a voice box with an earphone in your ear to listen to their narration as they give you history. And it happens if you're on a bus to travel to a particular site. So they're talking to you on the bus and let you know what to expect, or even pointing out all kinds of scenery and points of interest as you're going through the city, let's say. So they're telling you all about the city, not even just the things you're touring, but the places you're going past. And then they're giving you narration while you're visiting the different sites. And so you've got the two Adventures by Disney guides that are leading the entire expedition. And then you've got the local guides that give you all the detail and the background of all the different sites that you visit.
do they tell you places where you? I know they're going to say places where you can go. Do they tell you places where you should not go?
They will do all of that. So, like I say, they're kind of your concierge. So
Mhm.
they've been through the itineraries before. They know them very well. So there are some times when you have lunch on your own, or even possibly dinner on your own,
Mhm.
and they will give you recommendations for where to go and eat and what to have for lunch or dinner if they're doing that, how to get there. They'll make the reservations for you. They'll help you with the transportation or tell you if it's easy to walk. But they're also good at telling you, like, if there's restaurants that they don't think are all that great, they'll give you their opinion and they'll give you some guidance. They're not going to say you can't go somewhere else, but they will give you their experience as far as places that either aren't worth your time or aren't good to go to as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And it's very helpful. Again, so it takes the stress off of you. You don't have to do the planning. And these are full days.
Mhm.
When we were touring London and we were touring Paris, a lot of times we would be having our breakfast at 6:45 a.m. so that we could be in the bus by 7:30 a.m. to go to our first point of interest for the day. We had full days and we might not get back to the hotel till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. Now we had breaks. And they also take care of you. They always have snacks on the bus. They always have water for you, so that they're keeping you, from getting cranky because you don't have something.
You're not
to
hangry.
Now,
Yeah.
what kind of snacks are we talking? Are we talking Snickers bar, or what are you talking?
Well, things that they can get
Crumpets.
in the local location, but it's chocolate, it's chips, it's gummies, it's fruit, those kinds of things.
So
I
gummies,
heard there was a
chips.
really, oops, sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just gonna make a joke. It's like they really go to an all-out expense giving you gummies and chips.
I take gummies.
But I
It's
did
crazy.
hear that there was a really good crunch candy.
Well, they did have a chocolate bar called Crunch.
Okay, and it
Or
was supposed to be
Crunchy it was called.
crunchy. It was supposed to be delicious.
I don't remember if I had that one.
Oh,
Now I heard our very good friends Shelly and Dave Brookover were on the same tour as you.
that's who told me about that crunchy
And
bar.
John, I've got some bad news for you. They said they never want to talk to you again.
Oh, thanks. Stuart. So long as you
That
don't tell this, so long as you don't share the same thing with me before the end of the show here.
Now, this was a tour that was put together by Becky Mankin and Mouse Fan Travel with, for Lou Mongello and WDW Radio.
Yeah. So she had some influence over it, but she didn't have to do all of the work. But
Oh,
yes,
thank
it was
God she works
organized.
hard enough as it is.
Yeah, it was organized as far as the people that were in the group that way.
Mhm.
right.
And then they, certainly their travel planners were setting everything up for us. So they did a lot of the work in getting us reserved and getting paperwork completed. You have to sign some waiver or an agreement before you go, and they're very good at helping you understand what to expect and making sure that you're covered if you have any questions. So yeah, they were very helpful in
Okay.
taking care of those arrangements ahead of time. And if you wanted to book your flight through them, and if you wanted to book some free stay lodging or other kinds of things. So for instance, for an ABD trip, you don't want to get there the day the trip starts. It's dangerous because what happens if you have a problem with your flight, and also if you're flying overseas and you're going to have jet lag that first day. So
And
what we
John's an
did,
expert in knowing, that flights do get delayed and canceled. So
yeah,
we'll get to that.
we got an extra night in Paris, but yeah.
We'll get to that. Yeah. Was it hard? Now you said you guys got up at 6:45 to go to breakfast. Now, for you coming from the States and going to the destination, did you have an issue getting up? Because that's like a what is it, a 4 or 6
It,
hour
there's a 5-hour difference from the East Coast to London.
to
There's a
London?
6-hour difference for Paris.
For Paris. Okay, 2 hours extra for Paris. Okay.
What? No, 1 hour.
1 hour.
5 to 6.
5 to
5
6.
in London, 6 in Paris.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
6 minus 5 is 1, darling.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm still just trying to like, okay,
okay.
and then you're getting up at 6:45,
We're
but you're
all
already 6
tired.
hours ahead.
well, so
or
6:45 a.m. would have been 12:45 p.m. in
Here.
Paris,
Yeah.
or 11:45 a.m. in London.
Did
And
you guys have a hard time with the time difference?
Not throughout the trip, no, but it takes a little bit of time to acclimate, and that's why I recommend coming in 2 days before your trip starts.
Right.
So you could come in the day before, but that day before you're going to be tired and you don't know how you're going to be the next morning. So we actually stayed 2 nights before the first night of the trip.
Okay.
So you get in sometime, usually in the morning, by noontime that first morning. And what we typically do is we take a nap maybe for an hour, and then we get up and walk around for the rest of the evening, get something for dinner, and then maybe get to bed early, because flying over on the plane, I have a terrible time sleeping on planes. So I can't sleep while we're flying overnight. So you're up for more than 24 hours. Get a little nap. Little nap for me works well. Get refreshed a little bit, walk around, and then you're tired. So if you get to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock, get to bed early,
Yeah.
then the next morning you've already done a lot to get acclimated to that time frame. That first day you might be a little bit tired, but by that second day, for us, we were well onto the new time zone.
Good.
Now, as a runner, were you able to continue morning jogging, or anything like that?
I had 4 runs while I went for 4 runs while we were
Yeah,
gone.
Kelly to John, go to the grocery store and get me. Not that kind of.
Well, the reason I was making sure, I like to run when I'm on trips, just to stay, up to speed on my running, but I'm also training for the Disneyland Halloween half marathon weekend.
Oh, nice.
So I had to get some specific runs in, and we had some other runners with us on the trip. So went out, there was 3 of us one time and 4 of us another time. So
perfect.
got a couple of runs out there. Yeah.
Good.
So there, you can find ways, you can look places up. I found a place in London to run. London is a very, very busy city with traffic. So in fact, when we would take our bus to go somewhere, we would have to stop at a lot of traffic lights. There'd be a lot of congestion. So it took a while just to get across the city. It would take 45 minutes in the bus. So it's a very congested city, and certainly we're not accustomed to the side of the road on which the drivers are. So when you're out running, you have to pay attention to which way you should be looking. It's also interesting, in London, they have it painted on the road where to look left and where to look right to help the pedestrians. And I think part of that, or one of the things I wondered is that because they know that there could be Americans out driving and they might go the wrong way. So very congested, but I was able to find across from our hotel, there's a park back there, and there were some other, it's near the British Museum where our hotel was. So it's kind of on some back streets, so there wasn't as heavy a traffic. And I was able to run some of the streets back there, a little over a mile loop without running into a lot of traffic. So let's go ahead and get started with the
real
a bit more. Yeah, well, you don't need to hear about my running, but I certainly found some way to do it. So I said we did get there 2 days early. We had a lot of friends there on the trip with us, which was great. It makes, when you're on the buses, you get to have people to talk to, or breakfast, or going to dinner, going to lunch. The first day we did go off and tour together, so we got to see some things that were not on the itinerary for us. So we got to see things like the London Eye, which is the big Ferris wheel, and that was supposed to be temporary in London, but it went over so well, and it was very popular. We got to see that.
Well, you know what they
Did
say,
you
the
ride
eyes
it?
have it.
Pardon me?
Did you ride?
We rode it, yes.
Oh, okay. And how was it?
It was great views of the city up there, and I think there were about maybe 20 to 30 people fit in one of the what do you call them? Not a pod, but so one of the
Buckets.
not a but it's a little room with windows.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's maybe 15 feet long and maybe about 6 feet wide,
Okay.
and it's a shape like a big pill, and with
Okay.
windows all around.
Some people probably needed to take pills when they got off of there.
Yeah, if you're not good with heights, or a little bit of motion.
Any fog while you were there? Or was it unusually?
It was interesting. We didn't feel like we were in London. So we'll talk about, on one of the days we had a little bit of rain, but the other 3 days there was no rain. There really wasn't fog. So
Wow.
it was not our atypical London that we were expecting.
Oh, that's good.
So we did do, and there are double-decker red buses everywhere in town, and they're not all from the same company, but it's just a popular thing. We went on a tour, a hop on hop off tour from a company called Big Bus, and they're in other cities as well. And they had an open top, so you could sit up on top and see some of the things going on, and they have narration. So we did that the first day as well. We visited a place where they have all the carriages and horses for Buckingham Palace. Was another thing we got to visit. We went to an authentic pub, an authentic British pub. It's
What
interesting.
makes British pub authentic?
Well, it was a local pub.
Okay.
So it wasn't a tourist pub, is all I'm
It
saying.
wasn't a chain. Yeah.
Well, whether it was a chain, I don't think it was a chain. I wouldn't necessarily know. What was that question, Kurt?
No, they have warm beer.
Well,
Their
I don't
beer
know. I
is
didn't have any
room
beer.
temperature.
I don't know.
I don't like warm beer. I don't know. Ugh.
But
It
I
doesn't
heard
sound
that
appetizing.
I heard that the fish fry was very good.
They
mean a fish and chip?
did have fish and chips available, and this is something I didn't realize. I doubt that they have this at the window at Epcot in the UK, but at the Rose and Crown, they have the battered fish, and usually 2 fillets,
Okay.
and then they have the chips, which are like steak fries.
Mhm.
They also had peas.
Yes.
Yes,
So
that was in that picture you sent.
That's the way that it would typically come.
Yeah, I don't remember peas being in the one in the
No.
UK. But then again, a lot of people here don't like peas. I like peas, but some people don't.
Yeah, the peas stayed on the plate on mine, but it was fun to do that, and it was good too, certainly. And the way they do the way they run their restaurants, and I understand this is pretty typical in Europe. They will allow you to sit at your table for as long as you want.
Yeah, that's
They will not bring your bill to you until you ask for it. So you actually have to get up and ask for it. Otherwise, they'll let you sit there for hours, because
Yeah, I've
they
heard that.
want you to have a good time and relax.
Right. Now, I mean, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or whatever. How was the pricing of the fish fry compared to like something
Well,
around
darling,
here?
fish fries in Buffalo. Fish and chips are in the UK.
Well,
The batter dipped
That's
fish,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it seemed typical to what's here. Now the the caveat though is everything is in British pounds.
Okay.
So when I would look at the numbers, they look like numbers back here. However, I think it's like $1.25 American money to buy a British pound. So,
Okay.
it's a little more expensive in that regard. And, you're in a big city, so
Mhm.
you're paying more because you're in a big city, but
Right.
it wasn't, extravagant or anything exorbitant,
Okay.
anything like that.
Okay. Good.
So we got to visit some things before we started the trip, and then the second day we did go to Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey, we did that on our own. Now we reserved our tour ahead of time. Westminster Abbey is very popular, very crowded, and if we hadn't reserved the tickets ahead of time, we would have been waiting in lines and maybe not even gotten in at all. So we're able
Oh.
to visit Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey is right across the street from Parliament. And
wow.
Parliament, very big Gothic building, and directly adjacent to that is Big Ben.
Oh, it's
So-
all that close?
Well, some of the things that you see as iconic within the city of London are not all together, but Big Ben and the Parliament are next to each other along the River Thames, and the Westminster Abbey is directly beyond that. The Tower Bridge is miles down the river.
Really?
Yeah. Now the London Eye is directly across the river, across a pedestrian and traffic bridge.
Hmm.
The London Eye is across the river from Parliament and Big Ben. So it was easy for us to get from visiting Westminster Abbey over to the London Eye.
Okay.
But the Tower Bridge, nowhere nearby. Our hotel, we could have walked down to Westminster Abbey, but it probably would have been a 45-minute walk.
Mm.
The hop on, hop off bus was very helpful. We used that a bit. We got around. We saw places like Trafalgar Square. There's a really big park. We didn't get off and go into it. Oh gosh, is it Hyde Park? Hyde Park.
Mhm.
Hyde Park.
Yeah, we got to go past that. So there are a lot of parks within the town, and so we're in the city, and it does make for a greener space. So, but there are a lot of people. We went and visited Harrods, the department store, very high end, and we did get a chance to use the Tube to get around. So the Tube is their subway, very
Yeah.
very well known,
Mhm.
and we managed to learn how to use it fairly well. Although one time we were
Hop on, hop off.
we were coming back from Harrods, and that was at a time when we had a little bit of rain. So we had to walk a block or two from Harrods to where the Tube stop was, go down down the steps to the station, and we couldn't get through the turnstiles. Well, they had them stopped. Well, apparently some trains were backed up and delayed, so the platform was already full. So then all of these people just started piling up in the
Wow.
station because they weren't letting
Mhm.
anybody down.
That
So
reminds me of the New York City subways. Ugh.
yeah, so it was very interesting, and it was the Tube is heavily used. They have different lines that go all different places, so it's a very convenient way to get to different places within the city because things are far apart
Mhm.
from each other.
Okay. Wow.
Well,
One last thing.
it's a major city, so they have to have different modes of transportation.
Oh, absolutely,
for the
absolutely.
masses.
So like I said, they have a lot of the red buses. They're not all the same company. I'm sure some of them were public, some of them were tourist, but you
Mhm.
see them everywhere. And then certainly the Tube is a big way. It was very well used, so there are always people on the trains within the Tube. Sometimes we get a seat, or sometimes we'd have to stand and wait a couple of stops, and Then we could sit down as people would get off. But we did use the tube to get to one of the places that we wanted to see, and that was Abbey Road.
Oh, okay.
Abbey Road
Well,
is
what
not
about that?
Abbey Road is not convenient to downtown, so you can't
it's
walk
not.
there. It's outside of the downtown area. It's more residential, and I would
Mhm.
say probably a little, upper middle class residential. So, which is good because it wasn't flooded with tourists. So I always think about beforehand. I thought of Abbey Road as being, close to other tourist attractions, and it's not. It's well out,
Okay.
but that's great. You get to a train station, then you have to walk about 3 blocks till you get to the famous crossing.
Okay.
And the Abbey Road studios are there, so you can see over the wall. You can see the door, the entrance to the studios. If you watched any of the Disney Plus,
Yeah, I
Mhm.
have.
yeah.
That was so cool. Well,
So
I
it
love
was,
the Beatles, so.
yeah, and they had a great gift shop. They had some very unique items and a lot of variety within
Really?
within a gift shop that was adjacent to Abbey Road Studios.
Oh, how cool.
But then you come out of Abbey Road Studios and there's the crosswalk there.
Oh, wow.
And what would happen would be, so the people that are around there's traffic going by all the time. So
Mhm.
it wasn't so much you had to wait in line for the other tourists to do their walk and to get their
Wow.
picture. You had to wait till traffic wasn't going across.
Right.
It wasn't too bad. And if you were respectful and you weren't stepping out in front of traffic, the people that lived there and were driving there didn't have trouble with you. So we
Nice.
were able to grab our our iconic pictures walking across the.
Yeah, I loved your picture. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So that was all before we even got started with the ABD trip. But my point would be,
Should we do a part 3?
I
well,
know,
that's
right?
up to you. We'll see how it goes. I don't think you're going to get through it all today. But ABD trips have a lot in and of themselves, but you also have the opportunity, if you get early, to go out and see some things that you see are not going to be on the itinerary. And
Right.
we did that when we went to Italy. We got to see some great things in Rome before we started our tour, and we got to see some great things in London as well.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is, if it's a $10,000 trip, pack on another $2,000 or $3,000 at least.
No, not that. So the biggest cost that we had to come in early was the hotel. So we did have to book the hotel for an extra 2 days. And what I would recommend is don't book the hotel room through Adventures by Disney, because in my experience, both in Rome and in London, the price that Adventures by Disney charged you for the room was more expensive than you could get it for yourself. And there's nothing really added. There's nothing really added.
So they're taking a commission on booking the room for you?
I don't know. I would think that's part of it.
Wow.
And both in Rome with our other trip and here in London, the hotel was able to connect both reservations, and we stayed in the same room the whole time. So it's not like we had to check out and then check back in. So it was seamless for us, but we paid a lesser price for the room before we got there, or before we officially started the trip.
Now, did you take travel insurance for you and Kelly?
Sorry, you broke up there for me.
Oh, sorry. Did you take travel insurance for you and Kelly? And
we always take travel insurance either for a Disney cruise or for an Adventures by Disney. This was our second full Adventures by Disney trip. We had done one that was an add-on to a cruise one time, but this was our second full one. So we always take this. We always take the insurance because we would lose that money. It's not like.
And I think that's important for our listeners and viewers to understand if they do book something like this.
Right. And I mean, we were concerned when we went to Italy that we had a family member in the hospital at the time, and we thought we may have to cancel that one. We fortunately did not have to, but so you could lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, it's already committed. It's not like going to Walt Disney World. I mean, you can cancel those trips pretty close to your trip. But that's the way that we do it anyway.
Yeah.
Disney cruises and an Adventures by Disney trip. Absolutely.
Good advice for our listeners and viewers out there.
Yeah, it gives you peace of mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at the first day of the official trip is really for people arriving. You don't do anything with the group itself until the end of the day, when there is a meet and greet dinner to get everybody together, and the guides introduce themselves, talk about their background, give you a little bit of foresight into what you're going to do, as well as get a chance to meet all of your other family members. So they call the people on the trip a family, and they treat you that way. And it was fun to talk about it that way. But we all got together, we had a very nice dinner in the hotel. They introduced themselves. We all got to know one another. And they also had a surprise for us. So we had a very nice dinner.
Trip is canceled. No.
Yeah, thank you. As we were having dinner, towards the end of dinner, all of a sudden somebody came out from a back door, and it was somebody dressed like Sherlock Holmes. And so it was a person in character saying that they were Sherlock Holmes and that there was a crime had been committed, and they asked for volunteers, and somehow I raised my hand.
Of course.
And then they pulled one other person from the group, and I don't know if you could guess who that might be.
Lou.
Yep.
Lou.
Yeah.
So they asked
that set up, I'm sure.
they asked us to read a piece of paper that gave some background on it, and they handed it to me, and I don't know what came over me, but I broke out into a British accent and started reading as if I was John Watson, and we were supposed to be Watson helping him. But
Oh wow.
so we had a fun little activity there. We went through all these different things, and we ended up finding, through a bunch of clues, we found the answer to the thing. We had some nice photo opportunities and stuff like that. So that was the way to welcome everybody, get things started. And then the next day, as I said, we had 6:45 a.m. breakfast. They had a wonderful breakfast buffet there. And one of the interesting things with people in London, and I didn't realize ahead of time, they have baked beans for breakfast.
All right.
Baked beans, really?
I was in a study group in another country years ago with two people from the UK. Never did I hear them say, "Oh, let's have baked beans for breakfast." They had other stuff that wasn't exactly appetizing, but not baked beans.
This wasn't the only place we saw it. So they have baked beans on their breakfast buffet, and their eggs, they're scrambled eggs. They don't cook them the whole way. They're a little runny.
Are they running?
Yes.
They're a little
Baked
runny.
beans and run. Did you have to pack Beano while you were at it then too? Or did you not eat them? Pack the Beano?
I
So
did not.
that
I
the
don't eat baked
baked
beans.
beans
I
don't
don't
take
eat baked
effect.
beans, so no, I didn't.
Baked beans you having a barbecue, fine. Breakfast,
Yeah, it was a staple for them. So,
Wow.
the peas and the beans. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
No wonder they lost the revolution.
Yeah, shepherd's
I
pie.
would rather have the baked beans with like a dinner or a lunch, not for breakfast.
I'd eat them.
So we had the breakfast, and as I said, we got on the bus by 7:30, and again, the traffic in the city is pretty busy. So it took us a half an hour or so to get to that day. We were going down to the Tower of London. Tower of London has a lot of history to it, but we got there just as it was opening. We were actually there with the beefeater who opened the gate with a lock, and then we got to walk in. and we went straight to the tower, and we were getting narration from our local guide, and then the beefeater was talking, the one that worked there at the tower, as we were walking up, and giving some background on some of the people that had been there in the tower, and some of the beheadings that had occurred there. But they took us in to see the crown jewels of London, and they are exquisite, and there's so many of them. They're obviously priceless. We got to go in and see them first with our family of 36 people. And then after we were done and walked out, when we got there, there was a switchback queue, which we completely walked past. There was nobody there yet. When we came out, that switchback queue was all filled up, and then they continued down this big long courtyard. So that's one of the things. So that was the reason why we got up early, but it's also one of the things that Adventures by Disney does, is it finds way to give you that more of a concierge treatment. So we got to see the jewels first, and without having to wait in a big long line to see them.
Do they allow photography in there of the jewels?
Not the jewels. Nope.
Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. So that's for everybody, and we were no exception to that.
Yeah.
Okay. The second part of that question then is: did anyone get locked up, and was there any beheadings on your trip?
I'd have to go back and count all the people that were there at the end of the trip. So I don't think anybody got locked up.
There were 3 people missing after that tour.
Yeah. Well, they got to do a demonstration of how this thing works.
Yeah. So there was a lot. So we got to visit the rest of the tower on our own for a while. There's a lot to see there, and gift shops and things like that. So we went to do that. And then we went and did a very interesting activity. So the Tower of London, pardon me?
You skip rope.
No, I did not skip rope. Well, I don't even know where you came up with that one.
I don't. It's being tired.
Oh my
I just
gosh.
ramble when I'm tired.
So we did get to go down. So the Tower of London is right near the Thames, and we walked out from there on along the river, and we got some pictures taken with each of our individual families of our larger family, with the backdrop of the Tower Bridge, certainly very iconic. And that's one of the things that the Adventures Guide do for you, is throughout the entire trip, they are taking pictures of you, either if as an individual, if you're traveling solo, or with your immediate family, and each immediate family grouping. And then they have this big set of pictures that they provide for you at the end. So you don't have to worry about finding somebody to get your picture, or asking, a friend or whomever to do it for you. They do it for you, and they know the places to get the pictures, and they know the places to get the great shots. So another thing you don't have to worry about.
So photo pass is included.
Yes, if you will. So it's not, they don't have these big cameras. They're using their mobile phones, but they're all high quality pictures. And they've got, they know the angles, they know the pictures that people are going to like, because they've been doing this tour after tour.
Right.
And they were definitely pictures that we all wanted and coveted. But then they would also set up these fun little pictures. So they'd ask somebody to come off to the side, and they'd do something special with them, so that kind of fit into the context of where you were, but it would also be kind of comical. And they put a video together at the very end that they showed on the last night as a reminder of everything we did. And you got to see some of these pictures you didn't even know were happening, or maybe you were part of one and you were in there as well. So a lot of fun. But the other thing we did that morning was we took a high-speed boat ride on the Thames. So they have these it's a high-speed raft.
Hydrofoil.
It's not a hydrofoil per se, but it's kind of like a raft with a pedestal on top. And I think they held about maybe 24 people. But our group was broken down into 2, so 18 to 24 people. And we got to tour along the Thames in the downtown area. So we went down, we went the other direction. We went past Parliament, we went past the London Eye, Big Ben, got to see a lot of the sights of the downtown. But as we came back and went past under the Tower Bridge, it opened up more and they kicked it in. I mean, and they were swerving. It was a thrill ride, and people were screaming with fun and laughing. So they'd be going, and all of a sudden they'd swerve back and forth, and you know, you were thinking, "Oh my gosh, am I going to tip over?" Which you weren't going to, but it's that kind of a thrill. And so it was something we would not have thought to do ourselves. If we were planning a trip to go to London, it was an interesting way to see the city. It was a thrill ride. It was fun. But if we were planning it ourselves, we would have never thought to do something like that. So that's some of the things that they put together in your itinerary that I think adds value to what you're doing. We did go then to a pub for lunch, and you were able to, for some of the meals, we picked ahead of time what we wanted. So they would give us the menu. We went online and picked the things that we wanted, and then they'd have them ready for us when we got there. So we went for the pub. I actually had a baked meat pie because I wanted to try that. And a lot of people had fish and chips. Some people had hamburgers, that kind of thing. But that was
How was
was
the meat pie?
fun.
Was it similar to like Shepherd's?
No, where it's within a crust. So it's what some of you call pot pie,
Okay.
but you don't put crust and put a pot in the oven. You put a casserole or a pan in the oven. So,
Mhm.
so I've told you before, pot pie is really noodles and chicken and things that you put into a pot. That's Pennsylvania Dutch. But anyway, that's beyond the point here. So we had some lunch, and then we got to visit something that's iconic for Disney fans, and that's St. Paul's Church, which is
Oh.
where they filmed the scene in Mary Poppins with the little bird lady, bird woman,
Feed the birds.
and
Right.
feed the birds. Absolutely. So
Mm.
that was pretty cool to get the pictures, and it's a beautiful church inside too. So that was part of the trip as well.
Okay, here are some synonyms for pot pie: goulash, hash, pottage, and stew.
Stew. See, yeah, it's more like a stew. It doesn't have a crust like
Yes.
a pie crust.
I've
Well,
made goulash
people named
before.
stew are a little bit crusty.
Well, yes, people named stew
Yes,
are
they
kind
are.
of crusty. At least you recognize that.
Every time I look in the mirror.
Yeah. And one of the other very interesting things we got to do just because we were on Adventures by Disney. So we talked about the tube.
Empty their
That's
wallet.
what's that?
I said empty your wallet.
Empty your wallet. That was already done.
Yeah.
But I told you about the tube. We were able to go on a backstage tube tour. So we went down maintenance tunnels and other tunnels you can't go in as a guest. And we got to see some of the places. We could look down a vent and see people down below. It showed places where the ventilation comes out. So when they first put the tube in, they never thought about the fact that they needed ventilation, and it got really hot, especially with the trains running. So they learned over time they had to put those things in. But you felt like a work person going in these back tunnels. And we also went to some underground stations that are not used anymore.
Wow.
And it was kind of eerie, but they do use them for filming movies or for doing training and things like that. So it was a very interesting tour, which you can't go on the street and buy that, but that was part of our package. So we
Can you
had,
imagine if New York City did that with their subways, have a backstage?
you would have had, I don't think that,
Well,
I
they
think it would
can't.
take
The
an
rats
hour
would
to
be
sign the waivers to even be allowed to do that.
the rats would be opposed to it anyway. Yeah, wow. That's interesting. A backstage tour of the tubes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely worthwhile. We loved doing that. Got to see a lot about that. So that pretty much was and this was the day we actually took the tube then over to Harrods and had some of the challenges that we talked about before. So we had dinner on our own that evening, and we had not had the chance to visit Harrods in the 2 days that were free on our own, and Kelly wanted to go take a look at that, so we went and did that. So that was the first day. You want to get through the second day here and see how things go?
Yeah, we'll go over a little bit.
Okay.
Just I don't want to do three parts of this, so we'll go over a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Everything.
So the second day, we did go to a place called Hampton Palace, and this is where King Henry VIII had his original palace. And there's a lot of great history. They have it well preserved, and they have some great guides there. And it's a beautiful place too. They have beautiful gardens in the back. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. So no, I'm talking about the wrong place here. We went.
Trust me, nobody knows.
We did go out to the town of Windsor. So where Windsor Palace is.
Yes.
Now we could not get into the palace itself. They have people that are actually royals that are actually staying there, and I don't know if you can never get in there, but it's one of the locations where they can't guarantee you're going to be able to get in, so they don't put it on the tour. So the town of Windsor was beautiful. It's got some nice little shops, great restaurants. You can see the Windsor Palace there, but it was a beautiful little place to visit there. And afterward, we went and we did something else unique, and we had archery. We had a little archery session we had trained archers that taught us how to use a longbow. And so they had the straw-filled targets that were set up, and they broke us down and they taught us how to do it. And then we were firing real arrows from a longbow and trying to see how well we could do. And it was interesting. There were 4 archers, and they were dressed in kind of a period costume, but they not only were excellent archers, they were entertainers. So they told all kind of funny stories. They talked about history, very engaging with the guests. They were very funny. And one of them was actually Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi, or
no,
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
He looked just like Ewan McGregor.
Really?
I mean, as soon as you saw him, it's like, oh my gosh, Ewan McGregor was here. So that was actually the first thing Lou said. What's Ewan McGregor doing out here teaching us how to?
That's funny.
But it was a lot of fun. They taught us how to do it, and we improved from doing it. I got a couple of bullseyes. We had some other people get some bullseyes, but it was a ton of fun. Everybody enjoyed it. And at the very end, they broke us into teams. And then there were 4 teams, and each one of the archers was instructing their team on how to make sure that they had things lined up and hit the target. And whichever team had the fewest hits on the target, they had to go stand in front of everybody with a shield.
Oh, that's funny.
And have everybody fire arrows at them. Now the arrows, they didn't have sharp arrows. They had a little blunt tip out on the end, kind of like a Nerf arrow. But it was hilarious. So people were firing, and they were, bouncing off the shield. But every once in a while, they also had a helmet on.
Anybody we know getting shot at?
Pardon me?
Anybody we know getting shot at with the arrows?
No, it was one of the trained archers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they know what they're doing, and they had a helmet on, and a couple of times some of their aims weren't so great, and they got hit in the helmet in the head.
No wonder they wear the helmet.
So that was a blast. Everybody loved it. But again, if you were taking a trip you wouldn't even think to look for something like that. And
Mm-mm.
though the Archers, this was at some location out in the country that they have banquets and things like that. The Archers come from out of town just for us. They don't even work at that location.
Oh,
So,
wow.
When you're paying that kind of money to Adventures by Disney, of course they're going to come from out of town
well,
for you. They're probably
well,
getting paid handsomely.
yeah, but what I'm saying though is that's where you're getting what you paid for. So if that's
Mhm.
not if you don't want those kinds of experiences, you can certainly have a less expensive trip and you can still have a good trip. But
Mhm.
that's where this is more of a concierge level kind of trip.
Right. If you're looking for like a Six Flags trip, this is not the right trip for you.
Definitely not. So that was the second day. And oh, I'm sorry, we did go see the Hampton Palace that same day. So we saw Hampton Palace and then we went to Windsor. Hampton Palace was where King Henry VIII had and I forget what the order is. So King Henry VIII, it's something like divorced, beheaded, died,
I think there were two.
divorced, beheaded, so he had 6 wives,
Yeah, and
and
I
they
think he
followed
killed
a
two.
pattern.
I think he killed two of them, if
He
I'm not
beheaded
mistaken.
2 of them, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we did see that in the morning. Then we went to the town of Windsor, saw Windsor Palace, and then we went out for the archery in the afternoon. So
Nice.
a lot of fun.
Did you get to see the Knights of the Round Table?
Nope, we did not. And we didn't see anybody around town with coconuts either. Anyway, Monty Python joke.
Oh, I love Monty Python.
Mhm.
So the
And
next,
Fawlty Towers, that was another great show from the UK.
yes,
That was with John Cleese.
yes, didn't see John Cleese. When we went to take pictures at Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace is huge. We did not get into it, but we were able to get pictures taken outside of it. We did get to see the changing of the guard when we were there the day before, but while we were in the bus, and this was when it was raining the one day, there were all of these locals that were dressed up real fancy, and the women had nice hats on, and the men had suits, and they had all these umbrellas standing in a rain to get into Buckingham Palace. And apparently, Prince William was having a garden party that evening, and they were inviting all the people that do a lot for charity and volunteering in the city.
And Adventures by Disney couldn't get you guys in?
They couldn't. So that was where it ended. But we did see Prince William's motorcade go by.
Oh, wow.
He had a couple of motorcycles and he had whatever vehicle. So we got to see him like a block away, but he didn't stop to see us. So that pretty much wrapped up the things that we did in London. It was a lot of things in one day, as I said that the days were pretty long. But the next day we were leaving London to head to Paris. So they put us on a Eurostar train, put us in first class on the train, and it was about a 2.5 hour ride from London under the Channel into Paris.
Hmm.
Nice.
And when we got to Paris, they took us on a bus, and the first place we visited was Montmartre, which is a big hill in the city, and it's got a church up at the top, but it's also it's a town that's pretty popular and famous for having artists. So it's kind of a bohemian kind of area. So we got we took a funicular, which is an inclined train, if you will, to take you up to the top of the hill. Otherwise, you'd have to climb a lot of steps. So they had tickets for us, took us up there, had us tour the church up at the top there. We got to have lunch in.
Oh, I hope so.
We got to have lunch then. And from the top there, you could see a lot of the city. And if you looked off to the one side, you could see the Eiffel Tower in the distance. So weren't close to it, but you could see a lot of the city. got to tour around. They had great shopping, little shops. My wife bought a little picture from a local artist that had a couple of cats sitting on the roof looking at the Eiffel Tower, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
nice.
Mm.
And they would sign their artwork for you there. They were all local artists. So got to have lunch there, and then they took us back to our hotel and talking about concierge treatment. The hotel that we had within London was a 5-star hotel, and the hotel we had in Paris was a 5-star hotel. So that's part of the cost of your trip, is that you're staying in top notch hotels.
Yeah, you know what? It's true what they say. You get what you pay for.
Yeah. So you can definitely do it for less. So it's a choice you make. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like you had a wonderful time with Adventures by Disney.
yeah. Do you just want to touch on some of the things we did in Paris, or?
Sure, why not?
You know,
And then we'll get
do
to
you wanna do that?
Disneyland Paris next
Oh,
week.
for part 2? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, then we'll
Well, so I'll go over. I
Okay.
won't go into as much detail, and then we'll separate Disneyland Paris off the next week. But
Yep.
in Paris, we did get to do a lot of things. We did certainly go visit the Eiffel Tower. They have the perfect place to get all of the individual family pictures with the Eiffel Tower. It was great. We
Now,
had
is this
lunch.
all part of Adventures by Disney?
This is still all part of Adventures by
Oh, good.
Disney. Yeah. So the train ride, the hotel in Paris. We went to the Eiffel Tower. So unlike London, where we came 2 days early and we
Mhm.
did some things on our own, Paris was, altogether part of the trip. London 3 days, and then another 4 days in Paris for a 7-day trip. So we did have a visit to the Eiffel Tower. We had tickets to get up there. We didn't have to wait in line. They got us up pretty quickly. And we had lunch on the Eiffel Tower. So the first level where you can stop, we had lunch there. Beautiful views, good food. So you can look out and you can see everything from there. We certainly toured the Eiffel Tower while we were there. A lot of us walked up to the next level. Going up the whole way to the top would have taken a long time. So none of us really did that, but we did go up and get some better views from the next level up. And then we went to a local, well-known cooking school, and we learned how to and made macarons.
You went to Remy's?
Yeah, it's Remy's Macaron School, yes. So they have these kitchens where they train. It's a school for training cooks. But so these are industrial kitchens with a lot of space, but they taught us how to make macaron, and we had the cook with us, and they showed us. We broke into 2 different sets of folks, but we each made them, and we got to eat them as well, and they were, thanks to the help of the cooks, they were very good tasting. So
I
we
like
made
the way he said, thanks to the help of the cooks.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, left on our own devices, we probably wouldn't be able to eat them, but they came out looking great. We made lemon, we made chocolate, and we had this little party afterwards. They had wine, and we had our macarons, and we had this little outside terrace and had a nice little event there afterwards.
That sounds like fun.
It was a blast, a lot of fun.
Will you and Kelly try to make macaroons?
They gave us the menu, or sorry, they gave us the recipe.
They
So my
did.
intent is to give it a try.
Okay.
It's a little bit of work, but we'll see how it goes. And they also gave us an apron. So they gave us all an apron while we were working on them. Well, we got to take the apron home then.
$30,000 trip, and you give them an
Yeah.
apron.
Yeah, to give you an apron.
Yeah. I'm impressed that they gave you the recipe. I mean,
Why
Well,
not?
I think that
It's
the
a generic recipe.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty standard recipe.
is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not like
I've never
proprietary.
tried to make them.
Darlene, Google it. You'll find it.
Yeah, I've never tried to make them. I love them, but I've never tried to make them.
But we
It's on the
got
back of a French Nestle box.
there you go.
Yeah.
We got to see how it was done and what equipment to use. They gave a lot of instruction on, how slow to mix things at first and when to fold stuff in. So hopefully some of that sank in when you follow the recipe later on, so
Right.
that would turn out good. So we got to do that. And then that evening, we had a dinner cruise on the Seine, the River Seine, which is the river that goes through Paris. And it's a pretty big flat bed boat with glass ceiling, so you could see everything as you go by. And there were probably a couple of hundred people in there, so it wasn't just us. But there's a lot of river traffic on the River Seine and a lot of these boats, but very nice dinner, very good food. You're able to see, as the sun was going down and you see the lights of Paris. It was very nice. We enjoyed that nice dinner. And at the very end, we stopped, and just as we got off the boat, they have this thing called the Eiffel Tower Sparkle. So that's where they have all the lights flashing of the entire top to bottom of the Eiffel Tower. It's a great effect. So it's like a nighttime show at the Magic Kingdom, but the Eiffel Tower. So it was a nice little thing to send us off for the evening. So we got to do that. We did the next day. We visited the Louvre, which is certainly one of the well-known museums within Paris. There's also the Musée d'Orsay, which is another well-known one. But we visited the Louvre. We got to see some of the iconic pieces of art within there, whether it was paintings or whether it was sculptures. And we had a local guide that was well versed and told us all about it. We also got to learn the unique history to the Louvre and how it was really a couple of palaces for the kings and queens of France. And they created two of them. We got to see the base where the original fort was that turned into a palace. Very interesting. And then they ultimately started building to make the two palaces come together. And then ultimately later on, it became the Louvre. So got to learn about the history, got to see the Mona Lisa, and our guides helped us to navigate to push our way ultimately to the front to get our pictures. You can't get up next to it, but you can at least get selfies and those.
Oh, it's an 8x10.
Well, it looks like an 8x10 when you see your picture because it's so far behind you.
Yeah.
But
Right.
and it's not that big. It's like 24 by 31. I looked it up, so it's not a very big painting. But so we got to tour the Louvre. We did tour. It's called the Latin Quarter because it's an area where they used to teach Latin in the schools there, but a very famous area. And we did go to Notre Dame.
I was going to ask you if you got to the cathedral there.
We can't tour it right now. It's not open. It's not going to be open till
Under construction.
December. And there's still a lot of big cranes going on there, but you can see, a lot of it is done. We got pictures taken by our guides outside. We had some nice lunch out on a patio there looking over the Seine. And we also had a tour of the Paris Opera, beautiful building. And they have a booth for the Phantom of the Opera. So it's reserved for the Phantom of the Opera there. So we got to hear some of that history and background as well.
That's cool.
Our hotel was near the Arc de Triomphe, which is up at the end of the Champs-Élysées. So that was pretty close. We were able to walk to that. We did that and had a nice local restaurant meal that evening as well. So some of the things we did that day. And then the next, or actually the last day, we took a bus ride. It took about 35 minutes out to the Palace of Versailles. Palace of Versailles, we got a tour through it. Beautiful palace. And it has immense gardens and this outdoor area. There's lakes, there's trails there, and it's all a big public park now. So anybody can go onto the grounds. You can't go into the palace itself without paying, but the public can go onto the grounds and do a bike ride or get in a boat and go on the lake or just hike around or run or whatever without having to pay anything. But we got a tour of all of it. We had a bike ride included. So there's this lake that's kind of shaped like a cross. And so we circumnavigated the entire thing and got to see where they're setting things up for the 2024 Olympics. So they had the same thing at the Eiffel Tower. They have this big grandstand area where they're going to have some events there. They have grandstand areas around Versailles where they're going to have some of the equestrian events. And got to see some of the jumps that they're setting up there. So had a very nice time at Versailles. They gave us some gelato at the end. So
Again, all that money on the trip, and what did they give him? Gelato.
Yeah. You know what?
But it's authentic.
If you went through all of that and they didn't give the gelato, you would have been asking why.
Of course.
Let's see here. And then at the very end, we did have a farewell dinner, and it was at a beautiful place. It was a separate venue just for us. Big open room, great food. And they had somebody come in with an accordion, and when you think about Paris, you kind of think of that accordion sound, kind of like some of the music to Ratatouille in the background. And pardon me a second here. So they had an accordion player, and they played some, traditional French music while we were eating. But they also, at the end, they asked them to learn how to play a Disney song, Beauty and the Beast. And we heard that the accordion player was a bit trepidatious about that because they didn't know the music. They had to learn it and they wanted to play it well, but they did a great job. And we actually had a couple of us. So the accordion player wasn't singing, and I don't think they know the words to Beauty and the Beast, but a couple of us there started singing the song Beauty and the Beast while she was playing. It was a real fun moment. And we got to share what were some of the greatest things we got to experience over the course of the trip, and kind of say goodbye to everybody. One of the things I forgot to say throughout the trip is every day, at the end of the day, we got a limited edition Disney pin that was related to that particular day. So
nice.
When we went to see the Crown Jewels, we had something about royalty, or when we went up to Montmartre, we got one about the artists. So it was a Disney character and a little saying that went along with it. And the only way you can get those pins, we got 8 altogether.
eBay.
The only way you can get them is to go on the trip or to purchase them from somebody that went on the trip.
That's good. See, that's a nice gesture, a nice token.
Yeah, that's a nice remembrance. Yeah.
Kudos to you, Disney. And it's probably cost them 2 cents to make a pin, but
So anyway, we've gone on a lot, but that gives you the highlights of the things that we got to do. It was a fantastic experience. We were well taken care of. We didn't have to worry about things, and had good food and good people, and learned a lot and got to do a lot while we were there.
And the weather was good.
The weather was good. We did have a little bit of rain, like I said. So when we were doing the archery, it was raining a bit, but nobody complained because it was so much fun. We were prepared. We brought rain jackets with us, and people had umbrellas. The hotel, no surprise, the hotel had a whole stash of umbrellas right there in the lobby. So if you would go off on your own, and in fact, I did. I walked out one night to get some cupcakes to bring back to the room. And I just grabbed one of the umbrellas there, walked off. A lot of people went to the West End while we were in London. There were a ton of Broadway type shows that were playing in the West End. And a lot of people did that while we were there. But yeah, it was very important to have that rain gear while we were there, even though we only needed for little bits here and there.
What was the temperature while you were in London?
While we were in London,
here, Darlene.
It was not as hot as it is in Florida, certainly, but
Right. Yeah,
No place.
It's similar to the Northeast. We had some days where if it was overcast, it might only be in the upper 60s, but some days it was in the lower 70s because the sun was out.
Hmm.
The coldest weather we had was actually when we get to talk next time about Disneyland Paris, because it rained every day when we were
Wow.
at Disneyland Paris.
Oh
You know,
no,
I,
I'm
I've
looking
never
forward to
been
that
to
too.
I've never been to the UK, but I
Neither have I.
understand the weather is similar to New Jersey, cloudy, rainy, cloudy.
Buffalo too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We apparently did not experience the typical weather for London. They were
Well, of
saying, "Oh, I
course,
can't
'cause you
believe
didn't
it's
have the
this
sun.
sunny."
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys brought the sun with you. That was great.
Yeah, that is good. Now, throughout this show, I was making fun of John, with the price he paid for Adventures by Disney, but please know that it's all in fun. Adventures by Disney is a great product. It's not for everybody. There are people that will be priced out of it, but if you're looking for a premium vacation, you can't beat one. You can't beat what Adventures by Disney does for their guests.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. You're treated. I mean, you said treated like royalty, but they take care of you the entire way, and you get experiences you wouldn't have on your own if you didn't take
Mhm.
it, as well as getting the iconic things as part of your trip as well.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
experiential as well, as well as getting the history, and as well as seeing the big icons of the places where you're visiting,
Mhm.
as well as getting into some things that are more exclusive, like seeing the crown jewels without having to wait in line.
And without other people like in front of you or whatever, and not moving, or yeah.
Right, which so you don't get,
Welcome to that line.
you do have to keep moving. So, you know, we didn't stay at the Tower of London. We could have stayed another hour and a half to fully see everything, but then we wouldn't get to as many sites if we did that.
Right.
Now, whether I know the people in the UK are very friendly and welcoming. Did you find that to be the same in France, in Paris?
I found that to be the same in both locations. So when we were in Paris, we didn't run into anybody that didn't know how to speak English. Now, I got a chance to, so I wanted to be somebody who made the effort, and I've had French, in a little bit of French in high school and college, and I've kept up with it a little bit. So I was able to have some conversations in French. What we were told, and our guides told us, was if you want people to treat you well, when you meet somebody, don't go in, just start with saying, I need something. The first thing you say is bonjour. So just by saying hello in French, it gets them ready to want to talk to you, and it worked very well. So most of the people on our group did not know any French, but they would just use that simple little thing, and
Bonjour.
and everybody was very friendly. So, and
That's
At
both,
least
good.
in English they were.
what's that? Well,
At least in English they were.
now you can tell by
Yeah.
how people are acting.
I learned the word from a French word from watching The Little Rascals as a kid. Du
Oh no.
fromage.
Oh yes, cheese.
Yeah.
Do some cheese. Du fromage.
Did you get to experience the joy of eating vichyssoise?
I had no vichyssoise. No,
No
Escargot?
vichyssoise.
no fish.
No.
Did I have escargot? I wanted to get it. I don't think I got the opportunity to, though.
Go on a celebrity cruise. They have it as an appetizer.
Yeah.
Very good.
I
No,
am a
thank you.
fan of escargot, but I did not get any this time.
All right. That's gonna we did go over, normally we like to keep the show light. We like to keep the shows around an hour. We're a little bit over this time, but for good reason. Great, 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 great trip, John. And I'm glad you shared the Adventures by Disney part with our listeners and viewers here. I want to remind everybody, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the show if you would, please. It does help our visibility to other Disney fans, and to help spread the word of what we're here and doing or not doing. We also have an app for iPhone users, WDW Fan Zone app, which John created for us, and we're very appreciative of that. And I think that is going to do it for us this week. We will have part 2, which is Disneyland Paris. And I'm sure everybody out there wants to hear what John experienced. And you've been there before, so you'll get to tell everybody what your trip was like now and before and what's new and what we don't have here that we wish we had. And other things that I'm sure are great, like the food there too.
Mm.
But we'll get into that next week. So until then, everybody, be safe, be yourself. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
I did neglect to thank our travel guides, Fern and Dusty. So Fern and Dusty were great Adventures by Disney
Tons and
travel
crumbs.
guides. So thank you. Just in case either of you are listening or somebody that knows them, thank you so much for what you did. And in remembrance of that last farewell night when we had the accordion player, I had the chance to sing along with Kathy, and tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, Beauty and the Beast. Bonjour, bonsoir, au revoir, everyone.
I just want to say,
Yeah,
with
top that,
John
darling.
mentioning the feed the birds, and that I want to just send our deepest condolences to the Richard Sherman family. It was a deep loss for all of us, and it's one thing, but you guys were on that trip and for you to mention that today, it just brought that back to me again. And I just, I feel for his whole family and everybody who got to know him and meet him like Stuart has and stuff. And you guys are very lucky. So have a magical night. And like we said earlier, pack your rain ponchos, your sunscreen, and even a water bottle to refill when you're in the parks because the heat has been very, very hot here. Have a magical night.